While some might say my next guest is truly a soothsayer, because for the longest time, she has been warning about runaway inflation. And now Deutsche Bank has issued a warning of a global time bomb coming due to rising inflation. She also spoke about the digital currency and how the Fed has been planning this secretly. And now, alas, it is coming to fruition. We're going to be getting her thoughts on this and touching base with Lynette Zang. Lynette, welcome back to StansberryInvestor.com. Always a pleasure having you on.
Oh, I love being here, Daniela. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. Well, I had to touch base with you. You know, I read the Deutsche Bank report and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get Lynette Bank back on, because she was warning about inflation before people were warning about inflation, before there was this great divide. Right. How do you see things now?
Well, I do not think that the inflation is transitory. And I think that the Fed is behind the 8 ball, but I also think that they are between a rock and a hard place. I just don't think there's really a whole lot they can do other than print more money and create more inflation.
So if we truly are in a runaway inflation scenario, what do we do here? Do we just sit by and take that information? How does one go about protecting themselves?
Well, number one, you want to own gold, because gold has been proven over, hundreds of years, thousands of years, to be a true inflation hedge that cannot be debased. But aside from that, you really need to be in a position to be as independent and self-sufficient as possible. So I have my mantra that I've been executing personally for many years now: food, water, energy security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. We need to be as secure and independent inside of a community as we possibly can to weather what lies ahead. Because this is far more than just inflation. This is a transition, a resetting of the entire financial, social, and economic system.
So when you say it's far more than inflation, is this a road they're purposely leading us towards?
Yeah, it's frankly a road that started back in 1913. That was the beginning when they first put us on a fiat money or government-based money system and started removing gold's backing. And, this is the end of that great experiment where they thought they were gods and could control the rate and speed of inflation, which is why nobody realizes it, because they have on many levels been successful in getting us to think of gold as an old relic, even though they continue to accumulate, and I think they accumulate roughly 20% of all of the output per year. Why, if it's such an old relic? And the Bank for International Settlements recently, November 2020, so that's not that long ago, came out with a piece on gold's role in their currency reserves, because it's real money. And what did they say? One of the things I love that they said in there is that gold held at home runs no political risk. I was floored when I saw that. They admitted it. So yeah, but it is absolutely an inflation hedge.
So let me ask you this, Lynette. When you see statements coming from Janet Yellen, who spoke earlier this week, she was asked about inflation. Said, no, don't worry about the billions of dollars being pumped into the system. And inflation, we're not going to see that runaway inflation that everyone's worried about. What goes off in your head when you hear those statements?
Well, what pops in my head is that she is doing her job, because if she said what she really, really thinks and knows that's going to happen, people would make different choices. And her job is really to keep the markets calm. That's her job.
Right. How long until people, the general population catches on and markets are no longer calm?
Well, I think that has really already begun. That loss of confidence has been creeping up for a very long time, but now we're at a place where I think the markets are super fragile and the public is super fragile. It's been this K-shaped recovery has been, I think, really, really interesting because not everybody is benefiting in this and most people are not benefiting. And the other piece is watching them try and pull globalization back from the brink when we've already had so many protests and globally, because this is really a global issue anyway. So I don't think that piece is over. I can't tell you how long, but that's why they're throwing money at the masses now, to keep the masses calm. I mean, that's why they're doing it.
Lynette, I was excited to have you on because you were one of the first to write about and speak about central banks' plans to release digital currencies.
Yeah.
And I believe when you were on the last time, the Fed had said they were in no rush to launch a digital currency. They were looking at it, but they said it's one of those things where they didn't care if they were last, but they wanted to do it right. Now they've since changed tune here and have come out saying that it's something they plan to seriously evaluate starting this summer. And Lynette, what have you been saying? 2021, 18-step plan.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I want to know how were you made aware of it before others? And is it already developed, or are they just telling us this now that, oh, we're thinking about it, but how far along are they really?
Well, I don't think it's, we're going to know the end of this month, in my opinion. Okay, we're going to know the end of this month how fully developed it is when a little piece of Basel III starts to kick into gear, or that's postponed. Okay, so if they're ready for a major market crash, as gold is put in as a tier 1 asset, and it basically annihilates the paper gold market and the paper silver market in London and in the US, that's going to have a reverberating impact. If they let that go through, then they're a lot further along with their digital currency than I think they are. If not, if they postpone it, well, then that tells us, just like they postponed the LIBOR, right? After their test in October, wasn't very long after that. So yeah, the digital currencies are coming. That's programmable money. That's what it is. Programmable money. Gold money is private and it holds its value over time. The public doesn't need trust in it because it has the broadest base of market. Fiat money, dollar government money, is private if you hold it physically outside of the system, but they still control its value. Programmable money, boy, short term, they can do any darn thing they want to it. You're not spending enough. Okay, we will push those rates negative. You will watch your principal erode and you will go spend it. You will do what we say because we can make it disappear with the push of a button. So yeah, it gives them a whole lot more control. I don't like it.
What do you think the public acceptance will be of it? What happens if there's a revolt and we just don't want this? Do we have any say?
Well, we do. We vote with our pocketbooks. So if the public does not use it, that's why they're giving it away in China and any of the tests. How are they testing it? They're giving it to people. Here, go spend this. Now we'll tell you where you can spend it. We'll tell you how long you have to spend it, and we'll tell you what to spend it on, but we're just going to give you this. And that's the way, that's really how I think they're going to formally introduce UBI, Universal Basic Income, because if it's given to you, you are more likely to use it. And they don't want pushback. From me personally, well, if it's UBI, that means even I get some of that garbage. And if I have a choice, what'll I do? I'll either leave it there or I'll convert it into gold and physical gold and silver and take it out of the system. if that's my option. I mean, if I have the option to do that.
Right. And I was asking, other experts this as well, if there's more incentive that you need to get out of the system now before we see digital currencies, if you want gold and silver or if you want cryptos, because then if I'm buying gold and silver with the digital currency, well, there goes complete transparency and privacy. And
right. I mean, it's pretty interesting when you do look, the statement that you just made, do it now, makes so much sense, because even the mint can't get the silver blanks. Even the silver ETF can't create silver baskets. And yet we still have spot silver at 27, 28 bucks an ounce. Makes absolutely zero sense in any kind of free market world. Same thing with gold, with governments buying up gold, with other governments not allowing it to be exported. And yet we still have it, 1900 bucks-ish, give or take a little bit. And I think people are starting to wake up to this reality and going, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. It hasn't made sense to me in a very long time. So I read their documents and I watch what they do. When their words don't match their actions, I know it's a lie. When they do, I know it's the truth.
You've kind of set the framework, and wrote the narrative for how this is how the system dies.
Yeah.
Which part of the cycle are we at now?
I believe we're at the melt up part of the cycle, where the only option for central banks is just more of the same. They cannot raise rates, even though they're talking about raising rates. Well, they're thinking about it. They're going to buy fewer government bonds somewhere in the future, but they're going to go at a glacial pace. They're going to go super slow so the markets don't freak out. Yeah, the markets are in melt up phase. They're all up at nosebleeds level, and so are the markets. So are the stock market. I mean, actually, they should be higher than this for what they're doing. So they're struggling a bit, but yeah, I think we're in the final melt up phase.
I know your love of gold and silver. What role do the cryptocurrencies play for you in this?
I know that's where we're going. And I think the role that they play is getting everybody used to going completely digital. I'm personally, though, I watched Bitcoin come out and I felt like it was a Trojan horse, and I still feel like it's a Trojan horse. And what just happened with the FBI being able to claw back, I think it's something like $2.3 million worth of Bitcoin from the recent hack, that's gotten a lot of people quite shaken up that, oh, wow, maybe it's not as anonymous as I thought it was. So I'm going to wait and see who survives it. And then rather than jumping in with 2 feet, I am going to convert my gold as I need to execute the rest of my strategy.
And I know from past convos, you like physical.
No doubt, in any form.
In any form. And what are your thoughts on where the physical should be held? Are you a fan of holding out outside of the United States, having some in your backyard? How do you feel people should be exposed to that?
Well, since we're going through a complete reset, I think you need to have easy access to it, or at least reasonable access to it. So I hold mine in a vault here in Phoenix. I would frankly, I used to hold it in my home before I, went on YouTube. But once that happened, then I no longer felt comfortable with that. So I can walk to my vault and I can get it. So I think you should also hold it in a diversified way. You've got your barterable stash, so that'll ensure that you can put that gallon of gas in your car if you need to, or pay your property taxes, which is a big thing, as you need to. And then you have your wealth preservation and growth gold that I hold separately. And that's for converting into opportunities as we're going through the reset.
And something else I find fascinating about you and many experts I speak to, and if you don't mind me sharing, is you're prepared to go off grid. You have an off grid,
Oh yeah,
which is becoming more and more popular. I find this fascinating. Like you have a fully operational house, a safe house you can go
yes.
to. If you could, talk to us a little bit, like, is there a garden there? Are there solar panels? I mean, what do you need to kind of go off grid?
Well, there is, I'm really lucky, and it's very remote. And so it's number one, it's super hard to get to. I think my son-in-law will be very happy if one time we go up there and he does not have to change a tire. He's had to do that every single time, poor guy. And we have those big Kevlar tires now too, and so it's a remote location that is very defensible and very hard to get to and very hard to find. And it has solar, wind, which we have to upgrade because this was done as a weekend house, but we are using it a lot more than that. So we're and I'm going to be documenting this too on my channel, but we're going to be upgrading. But it's got solar, it's got wind, it's got a well with 2 6,000-gallon rain catchment tanks with filtration for water. It's got a gray water system. It does not have gardens yet, but I've already sent Laura and Lindsay, my 2 farm workers, up there, and they've scoped out a space, and we're going to be doing a sunken hothouse because there's a lot of wind up there, which is why the wind is so good. So it kind of depends on where you are as to what makes the most sense for you to do to generate your energy. But yeah, so the food part, we're doing at the moment, it's long-term storage, but we're putting in an orchard as well that we're going to have to protect from the deers and the bears and the javelina and the mountain lions.
Very cool. I guess Uber Eats can't get to you, but hey, you don't need
it. I'm telling you, if you don't have it up there, you are not, you're done. You cannot get it. So
that's very, very, very cool. Thank you for sharing that. And before I let you go, after the interview we did, the last interview, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of emails I got saying, thank you for having Lynette on. You've become like the fairy godmother of finance. People are calling you Lynette. They feel that they know you on a personal level, and you are extremely personable. And the thing that really resonated with people at the last interview, you were saying, like, look, you got to get out of the banking system.
Absolutely.
Right. So if you could just, in your final wrapping words here, just speak to that a little bit about the importance of, why we need to be out of the system today.
Well, you need to have a little bit in there because if you have auto bills or whatever, that is still our tool of barter. But more than what you need, you're at risk. You're at risk of a bail-in, which they're definitely setting up for. I mean, allowing the banks and the corporations the tax advantages that they have so that they can ship all those earnings out. And then when things crash, I mean, look what happened with Boeing as the pandemic was unfolding, right? They're huge on stock buybacks. They're huge on massive dividends. And then we taxpayers had to bail them out. So if you hold your wealth inside of the system, whether it's the stock market, mutual funds, ETFs, money markets especially, because we can see that plumbing for the whole financial system is broken, and it's kind of like the little Dutch boy that puts his finger in the dam here, but then also there. And by the time all those fingers are in and their toes are all in and the nose is all in, what happens when that next crack is? And I'd say we probably have right now everything but the nose. Okay, so why would you risk what you have worked for your whole life just because they choose to be risky and dangerous and transfer your wealth? So you need to be out of the system. I mean, it should be pretty obvious to everybody. If it isn't, that's surprising to me.
Lynette Zang, thank you so much, or Auntie Lynette Zang. Thank you so much for joining
My
us.
grandchildren call me Googie.
Even cuter. Lynette, thank you so much. Come back anytime to StansberryInvestor.com. I want to see that cabin. I'm going to come to it.
You're invited.
I know how to change
I'm
tires.
going to have to blindfold you.
Yeah, okay.
To get you
No
up there. But we'll have fun once we get there.
Yeah, I survived Sinaloa, Mexico. I think I could. I think it'll be okay.
Oh yeah, you haven't gone on this ride yet. Just wait.
All right. Thank you so much. Come back anytime. And thank you for watching this edition of StansberryInvestor.com. We'll have more great content coming your way. In the meantime, remember to share us where you watch us. That's it for me. I'm Daniela Cambone.